He said he's getting hate mail from these guys. It's amazing.
In being a baseball writer, would you like to make the jump to saying being a baseball game-by-game announcer?
Very much so. In fact, when I was in college at Syracuse University, in the days before Snow canceled their baseball program for good, I did the baseball games on the air on WAER, and my partner was Len Berman, now with NBC as a sports anchor.
Wow. Speaking of Syracuse baseball, do you have any suggestions with regards to the NCAA and assisting northern schools with their baseball programs?
I think that the NCAA and Major League Baseball should do exactly the same thing. Never open in Cleveland, Chicago, any place cold. Even New York and Philadelphia this week were ridiculous. But the Cleveland experience with Major League Baseball is crazy. They should open in the South or the West, where games can be played. Why risk injury? And we've already had Hideki Matsui, for example, pulled a hamstring. There have been other injuries because of the cold and the snow. It's just unfair.
Yeah. Of the particular venues that are out there and available, you get to a lot of ballparks. What three would you recommend to viewers if they have the opportunity this summer, this season? Where should they go for a game?
My favorites are the toughest tickets, unfortunately. It's got to be Chicago and Boston. I mean, Fenway Park in Boston is wonderful, and of course Wrigley Field in Chicago. But you either have to know someone who has tickets, or I hate to use the word scalper on the air, but on the other hand, but StubHub is a good source to get tickets. StubHub.com. Yeah. You'll have to pay a little more, but you will get good seats. And those two ballparks are terrific. To recommend a third one, I'd go something more modern. I'd go with Coors Field in Denver. I love that ballpark because you can see the beautiful Rocky Mountains beyond the outfield wall.
Going back to, since you mentioned scalps, maybe it's politically incorrect, go back to your Braves. Yeah, you think there's any chance that the Braves would ever go back to Boston?
They do go back to play interleague games. In fact, they're going back in May. They'll be back there for 3 dates, and I'll be there, of course. I made a trade with the Red Sox. I traded 2 articles for their program in exchange for tickets to 2 of the games up there, so I'll be up there for that weekend. But, you know, that's interleague play, and interleague play is kind of a sore spot with me. I'm a traditionalist, and I don't like interleague play. I think it should be reserved for spring training or other exhibition games or the World Series, and not during the season.
Yeah. If you could assemble an all-time team, any decades, who would you be looking for your pitching rotation, let's say?
That's real hard, because it's really hard to compare the pitchers of different eras. But if I had to answer your question, and I guess I do, since we're on the air, yeah. Probably from the early period, I'd go with Christy Mathewson because of his phenomenal control, and maybe Walter Johnson a little bit later on because of his great speed. And then, of course, Bob Feller. Can't overlook him, or you'll be hearing about it. Yeah. So, and, of course, Warren Spahn, who won more games in the post-World War II era than any other pitcher, and more games by a left-handed pitcher than any other pitcher in history.
Wow. Well, you know, having assembled over 30 baseball books and now out with Baseball Gold, of skippers, who comes closest to the Dan Schlossberg thinking of how to manage a game? Are there any identifiable managers out there that you would say, that's my guy, or he's from my school of thought?
These guys are all so very different. I mean, I kind of know who I don't like as a manager.
Okay, that's good enough.
But Willie Randolph comes to mind immediately, and I think of the last play in the playoffs last year, or I should say the last inning, not the last play, when Cliff Floyd came to bat. It was an obvious bunting situation. He had Floyd swing away, try to win the pennant with a home run. I mean, even if it had worked, it was a bad move to make. And I think another thing that Willie has done wrong early this year is to use exactly the same lineup for every game. Yes, the Mets are winning, but the guys on the bench are rusting at the same time. It could hurt later on.
There is a buzz. Let me throw out the name. Let me hear your cure to it. Sports Talk, Met fans, Lastings Millage.
Well, he's one of the guys I'm talking about. You can't have a young player like that and just let him rust on the bench. You can learn a lot by watching, as Yogi Berra said. But these guys have to play. I mean, he's got to at least get into a game once in a while as a pinch runner or something.
What about the farm system? How important is a farm system in this day and age?
It's critically important, especially with salaries going so far out of sight. Some teams just can't afford free agents at all. So if you have a good farm system, you're going to win. The Mets do have a great farm system coming up, and it's interesting to look at it. But in New York, the biggest example right now is the Yankees, because they traded away Randy Johnson and Gary Sheffield, and in both cases really got some good young players. So everybody's looking to get younger and get better.
Coming to the 37 mark, just curious, your team, the Braves, their farm system, what's your assessment of it currently?
They have a very good farm system. There's a prospect named Jared Saltalamacchia, which that would be the longest name in baseball history. But I wonder if he'll ever get to play with the Braves, because they just re-signed Brian McCann for 6 years. And he's the best catcher in the National League, if not both leagues. So Jared Saltalamacchia, unless he learns another position, he's trade bait.
Wow. Well, we're going to keep that in mind, because the last time you gave an assessment of the Braves farm system, you were right on the mark. So, Dan, I want to thank you for taking us beyond the game today with Baseball Gold, and can't wait for you to come on back.
Well, I hope you enjoyed mining the nuggets from this book, John. It's been great to be with you.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.